Welcome back to the Political Theater, guys. It looks like we actually did manage to get the show up and running finally. I don't know what the problem was for the past few hours. We've had a lot of issues in the past couple days. And finally, we got it actually running here on X. For some reason, spaces were down or something along those lines for the past couple hours. I'm not sure exactly why or what the hell was going on, but it looks like we actually did get that fixed. So we are here in live. We're going to go ahead with the show this evening. So I went ahead and started the live space too. So we've got the X space already up and running. So we're going to do a late night show. I'll probably go till around midnight tonight, guys, since we were trying to get it in here earlier, but it looks like it's finally actually working now. So we are indeed live. I had a whole bunch of stuff I was going to talk about earlier, but now I'm kind of all sidetracked because I was trying to fix other things. But looks like now that we are actually live, I'm just going to go ahead and open up with the show. There was some interesting stuff that did happen today. Supreme Court, or Trump won in the appeals court for immigration cases, which is fantastic news for us. And there's a number of other things we can get into. So, guys, if you guys are listening to us on X or Substack or wherever you guys are tuning in, please make sure you guys share the link out to the show. Make sure you guys share the space out. And if you guys want to come up and join the show, if you're on any of the other streams, go to x.com, go to at WC Dispatch, and you can come up here and join the show yourself. It looks like we're finally getting people to start filtering in now that we were actually fixed from whatever the hell was going on, because it looked like, and it wasn't just me, by the way, there was a lot of people that saying that we couldn't even start spaces. Diligence said that he couldn't start them either. So whatever, though, we are actually back here in live, so we're going to go ahead with the show this evening. But looks like I brought Jared up here right away because he came in here. Jared, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Walter? Hey, what's up, everyone? Yeah, there was a lot of news today. I'm happy you at least I saw your post. So at least you did you're doing a live show too.
Yeah, I do the live show. Yeah, the live show. Okay, everything looks like everything's actually working. Looks like everything's working.
I wasn't expecting you to do a live show. I thought you were just going to do the space tonight, just because of all the freaking problems.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is that I hate when I miss a show, because the show itself is what drives all the content for everything. So if I miss a show, then I can't share clips anywhere. I can't publish on Substack. So when I miss a live, it's really obnoxious. So if I do spaces, I mean, I'll usually take the audio out, and I take the audio out and stick them on my website and whatnot. But we're going to do the live anyway, so I'm going to have both up and running. So guys, if you want to come up here and join the show, you're more than welcome to do so. I do want to talk about this First Circuit grant, the court that's granting the administrative stay over this third world country removals, which I think is fantastic. So I think this is probably one of the best things we've had so far. Looks like this is actually going to be, I don't understand why we were keeping third worlders here in the first place. I don't really understand why we did it anyway. But it looks like, yes, hi, Cheryl. Hi, guys. Yeah, sorry we've had issues for the past 2 days. I mean, the other part of this is why I was annoyed is because last night I had internet problems. So I couldn't even come on last night. And then I come in tonight and I was like, all right, let's go ahead and start the show. And then it's like, nope, spaces are down. Wonderful. But whatever, we're here. So anyway, yeah, I do want to talk about this court decision, though, because I think this is great. I also want to talk about the fact that Mamdani, our favorite communist mayor from New York City, he made sure that the day after there was the terrorist attack in New York City, he made sure to post a video of him having dinner with Mahmoud Khalil, which I just think is just perfect. Beautiful. I mean, of course he does. Why wouldn't he? I mean, why wouldn't we have Mamdani out there with Khalil? Why wouldn't he immediately do that? I'm not surprised even the slightest by that. But this is the wonderful Mamdani himself. So we could talk about some of those stories, and I've got a couple of other things now that we're actually getting in here and going live. Oh, Javon's in here. I want to get Javon up here. Looks like I've got Thomas Speciale in the space too. I'd like to have both these guys up here. I do enjoy that Trump continues to. The Iranians, they keep claiming that they're not losing this war, yet they keep being blown out of the water, and they keep releasing more and more footage of them just losing everything. But I'm sure we could talk about the fact that they announced that they were going to put minesweepers, so they were going to put mines. There was going to be new naval mines all across the Strait of Hormuz. My question was, how were they going to put them out there? How? What boats were you going to deliver the mines in? Are you going to bring them out there in rubber dinghies? I mean, I don't understand. You don't have any ships left. So how exactly were you going to put ships? How are you going to put more mines out in Hormuz with no ships? I'm not really sure how you would do that, but I don't know. I guess we could talk about that. I saw someone who put out a minesweeper game earlier today that was the Strait of Hormuz. I thought that was very funny. But again, I don't understand how they were going to put the mines out there in the first place. But the other thing was, I don't know if you guys knew who Malcolm Nance is. Malcolm Nance is he's an obnoxious leftist who claims that he's really smart and claims that he knows everything about NatSec and geopolitics. He's one of the people that claims he's an expert. Well, he was one of the people that claimed that we had no minesweeping boats left. We decommissioned all of them. Oh my goodness, well, there's just no minesweepers. We weren't smart enough to bring minesweepers with us out into the Strait of Hormuz, and we actually retired all those boats. Well, he was wrong. He's dead wrong. And in fact, all of the boats that we have out there are new, brand new boats, and they're with the Fifth Fleet. So, I don't know. I love listening to these people, but anyhow, we can get into some of that stuff. We can make fun of Malcolm Nance some more. But I also want to say hi to Javon because I haven't talked to you in a minute, my friend. How are you?
I have been well, friend. How have you been?
I've been good, man. I've been busy as hell, but that's how it goes.
As part of life, man, I just will say this. Number one, I'm always down for duking on Malcolm Nance just because I think he is the definition of the deep state, of the establishment, of the blob. Everything that you can think that's wrong about DC, Malcolm Nance figures out a way to become part of it. But in all seriousness, just with everything going on in the world, man, I think I am incredibly proud of my nation. I am incredibly proud of my brothers and sisters in arms. I'm incredibly proud of our military, and I'm incredibly proud of my president, of my vice president, of my secretary of war, and of my secretary of state. These four men have done something and are doing something that will not only we will reap the benefits, but our grandchildren will. And they've done it in a way that I don't think Americans are used to, which is why you hear a lot of the riffraff on the Republican side. We are used to our leaders lying to us and not telling us what our objectives are. Those four men have made it plain and clear what our objectives are. And I think by a lot of measures, you could say we are pretty much 90% of the way there in less than 2 weeks. I mean, this is unprecedented in modern times, and they've done it without putting a single boot on Iranian territory. It is incredible. I think that we have a lot to be proud of as Americans. And if this is what our future holds, when President Trump said the golden age is upon us the day he was inaugurated, I think he has done everything to live up to that. And as an American, as someone who served, I couldn't be prouder of the job that we've done. And I will say this, last thing I'll say is, may God keep the seven men and women that we've lost. I pray for their families. And war is a nasty business. And I think so many of us are removed from war. So many of us don't realize what it means to be a vet, what it means to have someone in your family who has served. It's not sweet. The shit is not sweet. And I hate to tell Americans, but freedom ain't free and it costs something, right? And so we have to keep that in mind and realize that their sacrifices should not be in vain. Let's go in there, finish the job, and let's make sure we can keep on making America great.
Well, thanks, Javon. Thanks for coming up here. And I will say that this event, this entire incident here has been amazing because the fact is that we don't know what's going on. They're not telling us all of the plans. They're telling us what we need to know. And for the first time in my lifetime, we're not being updated by the frickin' journalists that are on the boats of the ships telling us exactly what everybody's doing. That is the dumbest thing we ever did. How we ever did that was so stupid. But now, of course, but this also leads to the next problem, which is what the left keeps talking about. The left keeps talking about this as if, oh my goodness, we clearly aren't doing it right. We don't know what we're doing. Trump has forgotten the missiles. He's forgotten the boats. He's forgotten everything. He just went over there and just, started doing things, and he had no idea what he was doing. It's amazing listening to it, really. They have no clue. They have no concept of why this is actually working out and why we're actually being successful at it. It's because we're not telling anybody when we're about to bomb them. And maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. Just a thought. But I don't think we need to inform our enemies every time we go do something. That was something that drove me nuts. That was something the Biden administration, every single time they did anything, they had a full press conference informing everybody of how we were going to strike these people, where we were going to strike. It's going to be 2 weeks from now on Tuesday. We're going to go hit there, and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Make sure you get all your people out of there. Oh, my God. Just get out of the way. Get out of the way. Let the military do what the military does best. That's really all we have to do. And the military is doing a fantastic job of it so far. But I'm sure we're almost out of missiles. When's that starting? Is that this week or next week? I mean, it really is amazing to listen to that. I can't. It drives me crazy.
Walter, you know what's fascinating? We were never going to run out of anything while we were just going to fund Ukraine indefinitely. But now,
That's
all
right.
of a sudden, 14 days into a conflict that we are winning resoundingly by all measures, now apparently we're running out of things. When we talked about supplies and shortages in the military prior to this conflict, right? Prior when President Biden was in charge, and we were sending cluster munitions of all things to Ukraine and giving them critical supplies that could have gone to other areas, including our own military. There was no talk of this. So I say save me the whining. They don't care about any shortages. There are no shortages. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is very well knowledgeable about what we can and cannot do. I can guarantee you America's not running out of things in 11 days. I can promise
I
you
mean,
that.
it just the whole idea is retarded. Okay, I mean, the whole idea that America, the military that has been fighting in forever wars for 20 plus years at a time. Oh yeah, this time we forgot them. We forgot the bombs, guys. We got to go back. I mean, just it's so stupid. It's unbelievably retarded. I mean, it's just and I keep talking about it, but this is the reason they're doing this, Javon. The real reason they're doing this is because they've got nothing. Okay, they have nothing to talk about. They don't know what to talk about. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They have no concept of what's going on because they're not telling them anything. For once, we're not telling them. So they are reduced to complaining about logistics. That's what they're reduced to, Javon. They have no idea what to
Or
be upset
complaining
about. So they've
that
all
our
have got
troops
is what now?
or complaining that our troops are actually eating decent food for
Oh
once.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well, that's the other thing. I was going to bring
this
that
is
up. I forgot about it.
ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
this is
my
a
God, we
joke.
spent $7 million on lobster tails. Oh my God, if you're going to reduce the cost of the military, I don't think the place to start is with our deployment meals. Because that's what that is.
Well,
Anybody who
people,
knows anything about the military knows that when you go on deployment, they give you a lobster and steak dinner. That's how that
you
works.
you try to, because guess what? It's either that or you're eating. I mean, here's the thing. I love our cooks. I'm not shitting on them. Our cooks do an amazing job, right? But like an MRE is not good, guys. I'm sorry, but like I would much rather have steak and lobster than an MRE
Yes.
9 days, nine times out of 10. I'm sorry to tell you. The guys can at least get something good, at least, while they're stuck in a hellhole that you would never dream of being in.
Well, I think we need to change the way that everything works. I think that if you're on food stamps, you should only be able to get MREs. I think that's the way that should go. I think we would dramatically reduce the amount of people on food stamps overnight if we did that. I think you would see a 98% drop off on food stamps if you switched it to MREs only. I think that would just be brilliant. I think that's the best way that we could solve this problem. It would save us billions of dollars every year. I do find the other part of this great because there's another aspect of this, right? About them talking about the food for the troops. They are complaining as if this is where we should be focused for waste, fraud, and abuse. The military does have lots of waste in it. I'm sure it does. Old contracts, the Pentagon itself has been a disaster zone for many, many years. But the one thing I will say is if you're going to really go after something, the military is one of the few institutions in our country that actually still works really, really well. And that's been proven, I don't know, every single time we need it. I think that there's other things we could focus on for waste, fraud, and abuse, like the billions of dollars going to random things all across the country. I mean, for me, guys, I do so many fraud investigations and looking into like government fraud and waste and everything else. The idea that we need to worry about $7 million in lobster tails is hysterical. Okay, I think the Bureau of Labor probably spent more than that on furniture during COVID when no one was in the office building. Okay, I've got a document that talks about let's see here, $6 billion we spent on laundry detergent during COVID while no one was there, while no one was wearing uniforms. What were we using it for? But no. What are you talking about? That's government money, man. You got to spend that shit. You can't keep it. What? It's not theirs. They don't care. Anyhow, okay, I want to get over here to Thomas. What's up, Thomas?
Well, it's good to talk to you. So many things, just even in the last couple minutes. Javon, I'm still serving in the Army Reserves, almost 30, coming up on 36 years, all the way back to 1987. I agree with you completely. I cannot imagine. Like right now, this is the proudest moment that I've ever had in the military. Even like the fall of the Soviet Union the ball sack it took to basically strike the Iranian regime that has been literally the source of all terror in the Middle East and globally for all these years. And Trump says it's time to stop messing around with these guys. We're talking about an absolute decapitation of the Iranian radical terrorist military. We're not hearing about them striking the actual Artesh, the army of Iran. I know that this is a nuance that a lot of Americans won't understand, but the IRGC are the zealots of that. Their whole responsibility is to protect the regime. They're all zealots. Whereas the Artesh is their tanks, their artillery. We're not striking any of that. We're striking their power projection capability, their missiles, their drone capability. Their entire navy is being eradicated. For so I worked the Iran war plan from 2010 to 2000, about 2016 at the Defense Intelligence Agency. That's what I did. I was a principal military planner on the intel side for this war plan. And back in 2013, I proposed that we didn't need to put boots on the ground. We just needed to castrate the regime. And that's ultimately what is happening right now. They are castrating the Iranian regime. They are killing the entire leadership, all of the IRGC leadership. They're destroying all of the missile launchers. So really all the mines was always a big threat stream, was the mining boats, the fast attack boats they had, and the submarines. All of that has been destroyed. The Iranian regime is not in charge of the straits. Right now, the only concern is it's a conflict region. And so a lot of the commercial shipping is still hesitant to leave to traverse the straits until the conflict ends. But I believe that the Straits of Hormuz are, for all intents and purposes, are open. Trump has offered to give insurance, which I'm not an economic. I mean, I am an economics guy, but I'm not an oil guy. And I listened to a guy the other day on one of these spaces, and he was saying that that a lot of the Iranian oil was already put on ships and is already out at sea. And I have recommended to some people that are pretty close to the CENTCOM command that Trump needs to seize the Iranian oil, the Ghost Fleet that is at sea, and then return it to the Iranian people, because there's a whole bunch of Iranian oil that's like floating around in the ocean, right? So yeah, I couldn't be like, literally, this was my life's work, is the decapitation of the Iranian regime. So I couldn't be happier with any of than I am right now in the last 12 days. This is like nothing we have seen in world history, where the U.S. has gone in and essentially just annihilated the Iranian threat network. Now, this is the last thing that I'll say, and then I'll land here. But I do want to talk to Walt about what's going on with my defamation case and this new law that's going on with regard to the insurrection on January 6th. I want to talk to you about this. But here's the thing: once the Iranian regime is decapitated, that will free up Lebanon and Israel to deal with Lebanese Hezbollah, which they're already doing. It will free up the Saudis and the Yemeni government to deal with the Houthis. And it will allow us to deal with Palestinian Islamic Jihad and all these other organizations that were essentially supported by the Ayatollahs in Iran, this radical Shia death cult. And so once Iran is dealt with, I think you're going to see, this is just my, I've been looking at Iran since the Beirut bombing when I was a kid. At the Beirut bombing at the embassy, and the seizing of the Beirut bombing of the Marine barracks and the seizure of the U.S. embassy in Tehran. So that's how long I have been watching Iran. They have been a thorn in the side of the world since the beginning, and that is ending under Trump. It's ending, and all of the threat network is also going to be eradicated. It's gonna take us a little bit more time to do that, but they're not as big a threat. Bottom line is, this is something I believe that only Donald Trump could have done. Only Donald Trump could have done this, because he's not beholden to the military industrial complex. He's not beholden to the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. He is doing what is in the best of humanity and the truth, and ultimately to the American people.
So,
And
I want to get onto this here. I just wanted to pull this up here because just on that same note here, Trump says this is something that just came out from CBS News just a few minutes ago, actually. Barry Weiss just shared it. She said that she had an interview. There was an interview with interview with Trump where he's saying that the Strait of Hormuz is nearly complete and he's thinking about taking over the Strait of Hormuz, which I think is great. I mean, I think that the United taking over the Strait of Hormuz would be fantastic. I think that's worth doing. If the United States got a hold of the Strait of Hormuz, which I don't think people realize how much oil actually goes through there. I mean, it is a massive amount of oil.
Let me tell you what that means. For the last 47 years, the Iranian regime has been able to control, essentially through threat of violence, the flow of oil to the rest of the world. If the U.S. takes control of the Straits of Hormuz, then now we have checkmate against China. Because China, between Venezuela and China, and we may have mentioned this the other day on your space, between the loss of Venezuela as an oil supplier for China and the loss of Iran as an oil supplier for China, you now have a chokehold on the Chinese economy. So if the Chinese don't play right, then the rest of the world can suffocate their economy. That has never in modern history, in 47 years, and so let's put that just in a little bit of perspective. Since the modern economy was essentially established post World War II, we have never had the U.S. globally in charge of oil supply. Between Venezuela, us as a primary supplier of oil to the world, the situation with Russia and the pipelines out of Russia, and the Straits of Hormuz, you could see the longest epoch of prosperity globally secured by the United States government, because the U.S. will be in charge of protecting the free flow of commerce through the Straits of Hormuz. Iran has been threatening that for 47 years.
Well, they've been threatening anything for 47 years, anything to make sure that they get more leverage in the area. But essentially, it's really just been, they've been slowly turned into a proxy state of both but it started with the Soviets and the Russians, and then it turned into the Chinese. I mean, they're just a proxy state for our adversaries. Is all they ever really have been. That's just the reality of it. Now, us actually getting control of the Strait of Hormuz, I think there's a lot more than I've got a bunch of articles talking about the Strait of Hormuz and the chokehold it puts on China, because China actually gets 54% of its oil from the Strait of Hormuz, and I don't think people realize that. It actually is. It's not just the Iranian oil. That's not even the major issue there. The reality is, if we actually completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz entirely, China has about a 90 to 120 day left of oil reserve before they would actually have to run out, before they would really even be in a serious issue. Now, it's not that simple, because they probably up purchasing from Russia. But the deal is that there's actually, I've got a whole different theory on this, by the way. A lot of people don't even know about this, but I put an article talking about this today, wondering if Trump is trying to use some sort of Kissinger method here to actually pry Russia away from China. Because Russia, as much as they work with China currently, they actually don't sell their oil to China at the same rate they sell it to the West and they sell it to everybody else. They actually sell it at a significant discount. So if they could actually sell it to the rest of the world at a better rate, they would make more money than they make currently. So that's worth thinking about. It's in. And by the way, for those who don't know your history on this, Kissinger, one of the things he did during the Cold War was position China against Russia, and we actually leveraged China to beat the Soviets. That was one of the things that Kissinger did, making sure that they were constantly separated. So if we're doing that in reverse now, which makes sense actually, because no matter what you say about Putin, guys, Putin does not want to work for China. Okay, he doesn't want to work for anybody. That's not who Putin is. But the reality is, if this same relationship worked up now, Russia doesn't have the population to maintain Siberia. Okay, and you think the Chinese don't want Siberia? Siberia has the most natural resources out of any place on the world. So it's worth thinking about. It's definitely worth thinking about it. And I don't know if this is actually happening, but I put a theory on it out about it because I think it actually could be happening. If Trump's trying to move Putin away from China, this would be one way to do it: is you ramp up the oil prices, lax the oil sanctions on Russia, but don't lax them for selling them to China. So then they're incentivized to sell to other people rather than China. It's a play, and it actually does make sense. Okay, I want to move over to some other people here. Jared, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Walter. Yeah, so I want to make a pivot here. So yesterday, it came out in Axios that the deputy chief of staff, for some reason, this was not reported until I believe like last night when I went to sleep. So Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair has repeatedly urged Republicans to basically shift their messaging about Donald Trump's immigration, whether, a lot of people have been talking about over the last few weeks, Walter. I know you and I had many of these conversations on whether the administration is going after the worst of the worst, or obviously are they going to go after any illegal immigrant who has invaded this country illegal. And if you happen to be in that process, then you're also going to get deported. So Republicans were at their annual retreat. I believe it was hosted in Miami, Florida, and the Deputy Chief James Blair was present. And Axios came out with this report yesterday. So I think this just shows that the administration is moving from the worst of the worst. I think that report yesterday, not a non-story. I think that's the just 100% confidence that. Whereas, the administration has been saying that they want to get, 1 million, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, who's obviously no longer at DHS, they want to get 1 million, not self-deported, 1 million mass deportations, out of our country. They've only gotten 650,000, which I think is a lot, but still, what do you make of that, guys? The shift between the worst of the worst and going after, illegal immigrants.
I don't know how much stock I put in it, because as far as I can tell, and this is what my statement has been the entire time, okay? Guys, anybody who thinks that we're going to get 10 million people out of this country by forced deportations, you're nuts. Okay, it's never going to happen. All right, it's not possible. What they can do, and what they have done very effectively, is what I call goblin posting. Okay, they just post constantly about how if you're here illegally, a guy could fly through your room in a helicopter, pull you out of your room, and throw you into a snake pit. I mean, that's the correct way to deal with this, because then people self-deport. Okay, what we really want, what I would love to see by the end of this term, is about 8 to 10 million self-deportations. That would be the best possible result of this term of Trump. Well, maybe we'll get a third term, but I keep talking about what term we're in. But the reality is, if we got 10 million self-deportations, that would be the best thing that could possibly happen. We're not going to get everybody out, guys. Okay, it's not going to happen. All right, that's never going to happen. But if you get out a significant portion and reduce the incentives so that it is not easy to stay here, then that's the best possible result we can get. That's what we want. I mean, people don't realize this, but I mean, anybody who's been to my show and listened to me talk for a long time may have heard me tell this story about the fact that we've had 50 million illegals here for years. And the reality is that we had 23 to 28 million illegals in the country in 2003. Okay, no one talks about it. And if you go look at the official stats, you're like, there's like 16, there's like 18, there's like, there's 20. They're lying, okay? Okay, just so you guys have a reference here, my family built the immigration system, okay? The modern immigration filing system was built by my father. He built it, every single step of it, okay? Not just some of it. He wired every single service industry. He wired every single service center. He stood up the entire green card facility, okay? If there's anybody that knows the actual immigration numbers, it was the internal numbers that an INS actually talked about 20 years ago. Okay, they actually knew them. All right, they knew that they were trying to figure out how many illegals were in the country in 2003, 2004, and this is during Bush's term. They were trying to come up with a new secure visa, a new secure work visa, and they had to come up with the numbers. The numbers they came up with in that era was between 23 and 28 million. 2003, people. 2003. So anybody who tells you that there's only 11 million illegals here, they're just wrong. Okay, there's only one person I've ever heard that actually had a counter to this that was right, but he still agreed with my number. But he said, well, I mean, if the numbers that I was saying was that you extrapolate roughly 1 million, you get roughly 1 million green cards a year. That's how many the facility produces. And they did 1-to-1 for illegals to non-illegals who were coming into the country. So 1 million illegal green cards, then it was 1 million people that were coming in illegally. And that's how you get to the 50 million number. Someone actually, the only person who's ever actually countered me on that was actually George Santos, because he said during 2008 and 2009, there was about 2 or 3 million people that left the country then because of the economic crisis. But I didn't realize that. But that doesn't matter, because even if you take those numbers out, Biden's numbers, no one has any idea how many they are. No one has any idea how many people Biden let in here. They've got no clue. Okay, I mean, there's the numbers that I've seen for people saying Biden, the numbers that Biden let in here is between 11 and 22 million. No one has any idea what it is, really. So, I mean, I think that was the most efficient method of bringing people into the country as they possibly could get. It was a machine, essentially. Anyway, but going back to your point, Jared, about whether or not they're shifting on that, I don't think they're shifting on that, okay? I think this has been pretty much the same concept the entire time, is that the intention is make sure that it is uncomfortable to be here as an illegal so that you self-deport. That's been the messaging the whole time. And 600,000, by the way, 600,000 is an enormous amount of people for forced deportations. That is more than we have seen in, Thomas, you could probably check me on this, 20 years more? I mean, from interior deportations, because Obama lied. Obama changed it so that it was all turnaways at the border were they actually considered deportations. Anybody who tells you that Obama was the deporter in chief is lying to you, okay? Obama was not the deporter in chief. He didn't deport anybody. In fact, he reduced interior enforcement down from 270-something thousand a year to 70,000 by the end of his second term. All right, go ahead, Thomas.
Well, I think that the calculus also needs to include how many we perpetually prevent from coming across the border going forward. That's like totally, we know that it's zero or virtually zero right now that are coming across illegally, but that was like 200,000 plus a month during the Biden administration that they were unaccounted for. 200,000 a month was the estimation for 4 years during the Biden administration. And honestly, I think that they did that because they knew that there was going to be this tidal shift in the American electorate, that we were going to close the border, and for all intents and purposes, that's what we've done. No other country in the world has an open border like we had during the Biden administration, and that's why the numbers, they can't even put a real number on it. And so I would argue, at the very least right now, what Trump has prevented just by sealing the border, just by closing the border, he's prevented 2.5 to 3 million new illegals from coming across.
Yep.
And we need to be thinking about who it is we elect going forward that is also going to keep the same policies in place, because that's what Biden did. He went in and he changed, and Trump had almost a zero border crossing during his first administration for 4 years, and so Biden had to make up for it. So my point is that we're calculating how many are here, but we also need to talk about how many we are preventing.
Yeah.
And
well, stopping the bleeding is what was most important.
Not just Latinos. We're talking about all the Indians, all the Chinese, all the Iranians.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, Thomas, is that he stopped the bleeding. Okay, stopped the bleeding was the most important part. By the way, I do have to correct you one thing. There was a lot of people that came across the border during Trump's first term. He did a lot better than most, but in the second half of his first term, they tied him up in a bunch of stuff. Then the COVID actually managed to help him shut it down even further.
True.
So he
100%
got,
true,
they were
100%.
tying him up in court on a bunch of stuff. The difference is that Trump didn't use the courts this time. He didn't deal with them in the same way. Okay, he got rid of almost all the immigration judges almost immediately, and then used the military to shut down our border because. To me, it was the most obvious thing in the world. It was obvious that it could be done. It was just we weren't doing it, and it was being left open intentionally. You were 100% right about it. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I concur with you guys on the second part. I'm just talking about, just to put my political hat on here for a second, Walter, of the strategicness of this as we're just heading into the midterm elections. So the reason I brought that up was because of the Axios report. So also there, and anyone can go check that. I don't need to make people.
Who
believe me.
was it
Anyone
who
can
wrote
go
that
check.
one anyway from Axios?
I'm not sure the reporter. It was a direct quote. And then the person came out after and confirmed it. Even more noticeable, guys, was Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday. So he was asked about the report. You can't make this up, Walter. And he even said, quote, we've got a little hiccup with some of the Hispanic and Latino voters for certain because of the immigration enforcement was viewed to be overzealous. Let me read that again. We've got a little hiccups.
Listen, you don't need to read it again.
Yeah.
I understand the concept here. Okay, I get it. I understand what we're talking about here. But if we think that we're somehow going to stop everything because the Latino vote might be mad or something, I just don't believe it. Okay, so I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah,
It's not going to be a ground stop for sure. I think Trump would be a moron times 10 to do that. I just think that obviously the mission right in Minnesota was to go and get the illegal immigrants off the street, find the Somali fraud. That is not the topic of conversation, right? No one's talking about, and I'll be the first to tell you, no one's talking about the Biden-Mayorkas border fuck up. Excuse my French. No one's talking about that. So Republicans up until, immigration, even before 2016, with all of the topics regarding Donald Trump plus company, immigration has always been Donald Trump's strongest point. And where you even have Republicans talking like moderate Democrats right now on immigration, my hair just stands up. You're literally talking like independent moderates and you're members of the Republican Party.
Yeah, well,
so I
but
do
here,
think
and this
there
is
is
what
a
my point is.
messaging problem.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's a messaging problem, but the issue is that, in my eyes, they haven't gone far enough. Okay, that's the problem. That's the real problem. They haven't gone far enough. They need to go further.
Where does it change? Right?
Walter, there's not a messaging problem. I think that is a misnomer. What the problem is there's as I'm going to borrow a term from the Democrat Party, there is a disinformation campaign that is taking place in our country and has been taking place since 2015, the moment President Trump stepped on the stage, which is that people take what he's doing and intentionally warp it to fit their own narratives. What the president is doing is very clear. He said it at the State of the Union. He is prioritizing American citizens over illegal aliens.
That's right.
Period. Point blank. If you disagree with that, that is your prerogative. But to make it seem like he is targeting American citizens when the man's first comments were "Make America Great Again" and "I will do everything in defense of the American people and our nation" is absurd. It is incredible to me that the same people who are fighting so hard for illegal aliens are not fighting as hard for the disenfranchised kids in their neighborhoods. You know how many black kids in Minneapolis can't read on their grade level? This is absurd to me. Don't sit here and lecture anyone about black and brown communities when you're not even taking care of the same people who share your nationality.
Well,
yet you go and go out of your way to fight for people who would rather steal from the American taxpayer and send it back to Al-Shabaab, okay?
Yeah, drives me crazy.
Protecting the American people.
Well,
this
it is absurd. And, the thing that drives me the most insane about it is how there's not an actual campaign to talk about the real effects of immigration on areas. I mean, I talk about it, and if people come in here, they hear me talk about it. I live in Springfield, Ohio. And what do you think the result of dropping 30,000 Haitians into this city has been? The city only had 60,000 people living here. What do you think that did? Okay, so let me give you just one example so you can kind of grasp this, okay? The Haitian population at the local high school went from 90 students from Haitian, to 1,000 in less than 4 years. Now, the problem with that is that Haitians don't speak English, okay? Haitians speak a really interesting language called Creole. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had to hire a translator before. Do you know how much a Creole translator is per hour? About $450 an hour. Okay, so how do you train? How do you bring in translators? You suck money out of the school system. That's how they have to do it. It's a public school. It's a public school, and they already have made it certain that you have to be able to provide public schooling, even if they're here. So it doesn't matter. So our public schooling system is having to spend millions of dollars every single year in multiple different states all across the country. And this isn't, it's not like this is like in South Texas, okay, where you maybe need to have, have to have Hispanic teachers and non-Hispanic teachers. This is in the middle of freaking nowhere, Ohio. Okay, this is a small town in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. How the hell do they afford that? There's only one way. They raise taxes. That's it. That's the only thing they can do to afford that. And it costs everybody in the local area more and more money.
Yeah, let me hit you at this point real quick. All right, because it's not 4D chess like 4 seconds ago, right? And again, I think the numbers are.
I don't know. Hold on a minute.
Again, I think
Wait,
650.
just stop for a second. I don't know what you're talking about. What is not what's not 4D chess? What are you talking about? I just don't think
the numbers are more. Yeah. So what I'm talking about, Walter, is I don't think the numbers. I think over 600,000. That's pretty good for any administration. Those are not self-deportation numbers. Those are deportation by ICE, right? By ICE and Immigration Custom Enforcement. I think that is good. However, when you're also, again, we're going to hear a lot about this. So John Thune has not put a meeting or a date yet on Senator Mark Wayne Mullen's confirmation. You're going to hear all about that. All the senators, including the Republican ones, are going to be asking questions about ICE, about how they have been doing their tactics. So I just think, again, even if the numbers on paper says this administration has followed the blueprint, right, with, when we're moving from 6 seconds ago, mass deportations. I can't tell you how many Trump rallies I was at over the summer, saying, oh, mass deportations. Now we're saying, let's deport the illegal immigrants, which I think is more common sense, right? Let's get the violent worst out of the worst people who kill, rape, torture our children, our women.
Yeah,
those are the people that need to leave this country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they need to go, but that doesn't matter, Jared. That's not the point, okay? I mean, I think there's not a switch. Okay, like you keep talking about it as if there's some sort of change here. I really don't see this change. But you're right, though. We'll get to hear all about it. Okay, we'll get to hear all about it very soon, because if there's going to be confirmation here, and we'll get to hear all about DHS here very, very shortly. Okay, I need to get to some hands here because I got other people. No, stop, Jared. I got other people up here. I got to get to them too. You're on the show all the time. Jacktron, you had your hand up for a long time. What's up, Jacktron?
Hey, man. Busy day today. So a couple things. I don't know if you saw this New York Times article that said the investigation into the school in Iran that was blown up. They're saying it was an American missile, but it's the New York Times, so I don't really believe anything they say. And I was just wondering if maybe you could just
yeah. I mean, we talked about this the other night. So the New York Times is just like there's another group called Foreign Policy that wrote an article talking about very similar things. Their sources are who? Seriously, who's giving them this information? And the only sources that have anything about this, by the way, are the Iranians. That's it. It's the only people that have any information of this. So it's not like we've got people on the ground there doing investigations at the bombed place in Iran. It's not like the New York Times has reporters in Iran currently on the ground. If they do, I might have to ask them some questions, but they don't. Okay, they don't have any information. Okay, the best person to go look at for this stuff is go look at Matt Tardio's stuff. Matt Tardio is a very good analyst. He's a military guy. He's actually even former Green Beret. He knows what he's talking about. Okay, go read and listen to Matt Tardio's stuff, because he's been talking about this and saying that, look, the missile isn't even right. The fins are in the wrong spot. It's not a Tomahawk. Further, he also said he found somebody here recently that actually said that they were talking about how they were intending to make that school martyrs from the beginning, which is, that's not uncommon for these people. But anyway, so yeah, I don't buy anything that the New York Times sells. These are the same by the way, just to give you some reference again about how credible the former newspaper, the New York Times, is. Remember that they ran the headline the day after the guy threw a bomb in New York City? The headline the day of was, "Man throws jar of smoking metal and fuses into crowd." Yeah, that's it. Now, I've never heard that description before. It's usually called bomb. It's like explosive thrown. No, it's smoking jar of metal and fuses.
IED.
Yeah, well, listen, this is what they said, okay? And the better part about it is there's another headline that came out afterwards, and they said, man accused of throwing bomb. And the photo they use, he's literally holding a bomb like a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's literally smoking. I mean, it's amazing that this is what they run. I mean, I don't know how again, I've talked about this 100 times. New York Times is only in business because of Wordle. If they didn't have Wordle, no one would use them and no one would actually care about them. They only, I think
That's
they
funny.
actually, I think they got a, I think they actually got a significant boost in business when the Wall Street Journal decided they were going to become a fake newspaper as well, because everyone's like, well, why do we need two newspapers? We don't need to subscribe to two of them fake one. And the New York Times has better font and Wordle. So I'll just subscribe to New York Times and not use the Wall Street Journal anymore. Okay, I got to go over to some other people here. Let's see here. Blue Ninja, you came up here and you put your hand up. What's up?
Hey, there's a lot of disinformation. You nailed it on the coffin. There's so much disinformation going on. There's a lot of information going on. We're trying to get our states back. There's a lot of sleeper cells. We got a lot of cartels going on. We got a lot of this and that. A lot of people are digging in this and that. But at the end of the day is we have to date together. We have to figure out how do we go from here and there? Because look at Iran. There's a lot of disinformation on that. Look at Israel. There's so much disinformation. But the thing is it comes down to money and it comes down to our states. So, buddy, how do we get our states back? I mean, we got the midterms coming up.
Well, so you have two kind of, I don't know. The question is, how do we get our states back? I'm not really sure I understand the question here. But the other part of that would be the disinformation problem. That's not going away, unfortunately. Okay, so I was talking about with somebody the other day. Unfortunately, if you guys have not been over to Facebook recently, in that hellhole that exists over there, Facebook is filled with nothing but slop AI and completely meaningless content that no one cares about. But that is still used by a significant portion of the population. I don't know how you fix that. Okay, that's not going away. Everyone complains all the time on X about, oh my God, it's terrible here. There's so much. Have you been other places? Have you looked at the other content on other websites? It's horrible. I mean, oh my goodness, you go to Facebook and it's, you got 20 minutes of nothing but AI slop, meaningless videos with the background voice where you can tell it was just completely made with like a program. And it's boomers like, oh my God, is this real? Like, oh Lord Almighty, we are so screwed. I mean, like, I have no idea how you fix that problem. Okay, I will say X of all places has done the best out of any of the other platforms I've ever seen of actually managed to filter some real information. They actually do a pretty good job at it, and I like what they're doing right now with making AI labels. So you're saying if you try and put out AI content, that they actually attack you for it. They said that you can't do that. You can't be monetized if you do it. The one thing I will say,
but how do we tie local action with national impact on that?
what?
Because you got disinfo, and then we have to tie local action.
Yeah,
So how do we
sorry, man. I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know what you're talking about. How you tie disinfo to local action? I mean, that's you're asking very broad questions. Okay, disinformation, local action. What I'm talking about is just tell everybody good information. That's the best I can tell you. The one thing I will say is that the one problem I have a lot recently is with X has done pretty good about the AI content. They've done really good about it actually. But it's driving me nuts. The people that put out the extremely long posts that are clearly written by AI, anybody who uses AI on like a regular basis for anything, you can see it in like 1 second. It's not this, it's this. Let me tell you all about this. And it's not that, but this and that and not that. I mean, it's just, I don't know where people, like, does anybody actually read that and go, oh, that was brilliant? Like, oh man. I feel bad for you. Okay, I got to get over here to 10th Mountain Think Tank. What's up, buddy?
Hey Walter, yeah, I saw your space. I had to jump on because I was watching, popping my head into the legacy media today, and all I could think about was the Democrat slogan, "Never let a good crisis go to waste," most famously said by Hillary Clinton in 2009. And so, here it is. We're looking at the partial government shutdown that severely impacted, DHS, ICE, Coast Guard, FEMA, TSA, U.S. Customs, you name it. And then, we get all these airports across America in gridlock because of the TSA issue. And, it was interesting because I wrote this before the drones were reported that might attack, a California, the Iranian drones. And here it is. I'm just laughing, because, you know, everything that I'm looking at, it's a deep state false flag, because somehow the stars have magically aligned where, our guard is down because of the Democrats, doing this partial government shutdown. And now we're getting threats of Iranian sleeper cells all of a sudden. And then now California is going to be attacked. I mean, it's just too convenient. But I wanted to see what your thoughts on it.
We
Well,
had sleeper cells. I didn't hear about that yet.
Hold on a minute here. So, every time I hear about the people talking about the Iranian drones, I always think back. Do you guys remember right before Trump took over, that December, there was the report of, oh my God, the drones are everywhere in the United States. They're everywhere. They're flying over New Jersey. They're all over the place. And then there was that moronic, what was that guy's name? That moronic congressman who went out there and was like, there's an Iranian mothership off the coast of New Jersey flying drones across the United States. I was like, oh my God, these people. The Iranian drone ship was off the coast of New Jersey, and we just let it. Our Air Force somehow didn't pick up on it, and we just let them fly over the place. The greatest part about that was when Trump came into office. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was the first or second press conference. Caroline Levitt, she came out and she said, by the way, I have an update for you on the drones. The drones had FFA clearance. And that was it. That's all she said. That was it. All of it. It was less than 10 seconds. That's all she said. That was the end of that entire conversation. So listening to these people talk about the drone threat in the United States, guys, the mainland, the United States. Now, the idea that we could have sleeper cells here, it could be a real threat. But again, my comment, and I talked about this the other night. In fact, I think it's still pinned to my current profile. My comment is, if a country is aggressive with us enough to have sleeper cells, kill more of them. That's my response. More. Kill more. Blow up more of their shit. All right. That is the last thing I want to hear is someone say, what do we do? Like, oh, we got to stop fighting them because they got sleeper cells here. What? It doesn't make any sense. Kill more. Like, if there's any country that has a sleeper cell here, I don't like the one thing I think is very strange what Trump has said. He's like, we've got our eye on them. Like, what do you mean we got our eye on them? Like, we actually know that they're here and we're kill them. What are you doing? Like, I don't understand. But that's got to be something else. I mean, that's just Trump talking. So I don't quite understand that entire concept. What?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think, the reality is that there are Iranian IRGC operatives in the United States. We know who they are, probably 99% of them. And they are watching them because they want to make sure they're going to watch them and see who they're communicating with, what are their plans. This is a big responsibility for the FBI on their counterintelligence division, on their counterintelligence bureau. So yeah, there are going to be Iranians, but there are also Russians. There's Israelis. There's probably North Koreans that have gotten into the United States that are working on behalf of their foreign government, and the vast majority of them are probably identified. So when we say that there are sleeper cells, here's the thing that I would suggest to everybody. This happened with the fall of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed and the Soviet government collapsed, imagine yourself as a Russian working for a government that no longer exists, that maybe has a small business, a job, a couple of kids, or whatever. Okay. When their government collapses or is dismembered, destroyed, whatever, in all likelihood, they become a pretty lawful citizen in the United States because they're no longer fighting for anybody abroad once
Right.
the regime is eliminated.
Well, that's possible.
So,
I mean, what's the name of that? There's a great TV show. There's a great TV show that was about this, right? I think it's called
and it's true,
yeah.
Walter. It's true.
Yeah,
it is absolutely true. So the only thing I would say to this is that the ones that pose an actual threat are probably being monitored. I've worked very closely with the FBI on these kinds of issues. we're monitoring all these people. So I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if we don't see apprehensions and thwarted terrorist attacks in the United States over the next 6 months to 12 months because of people that are loyal to the regime trying to do something. But these are not these are not threats that are actually military threats. They're terror threats, but they were on those guys long before this happened.
Well, and this is
And
something
so,
I brought up. I brought this up the other day. There's the other thing that people forget about is that you notice that Trump, all of the really, really intense immigration actions all happened before we did the strike on Iran. Do you think that's a coincidence, guys? Just a question. I mean, if there was really important people that we needed to round up, do you think it was just a coincidence that we were just happened to do some of the largest immigration raids in the middle of public all over the country for 6 to 8 months prior to? Not a coincidence at all, guys. Not a coincidence at all. Okay, I got to keep moving here. Darth Kirby, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I was kind of partially going to address what someone else was saying about, how to take back the country or whatever, take back the local stuff. And that was a very extremely broad question. But the first thing that popped to my mind when I heard that was we kind of are already making progress on the information sphere, like things like news and all that. So the thing that popped into my mind was the education sphere. We're taking that sphere of influence back as well, gradually and slowly but surely. But that seems to be the major battleground if you're going to talk about taking back, I guess you could say, the future of the nation or the future of your local area. It's always in the education system because 10, 15 years down the line, whoever's controlling the schools, they're controlling the way that kids perceive the world once they leave. So that's the major battleground right now. And we're seeing victories because the Ivy Leagues are collapsing, and places like Hillsdale, Jordan Peterson Academy, Patrick Henry University, all these places are getting flooded with all the bright kids that want to get a quality education because they know if they go to Yale or Harvard, they're going to get bullshit. So,
well, I mean, here's the thing. So the smart Ivy League schools, which are usually the engineering schools, by the way, they're doing just fine because they moved away from this stupid DEI crap once they realized that they were getting worse students. Places like MIT realized that very quickly, and they were like, oh, nope, we're not doing that anymore. Get that out of here. No, you have to have a really good SAT score to get into MIT. I mean, so some of these schools are going to be okay, but the problem is that the other problem that's really happening right now is there's a lot of people that are going to college that simply their jobs are going to become reasonably meaningless really, really soon. So the thing that's actually going to start to need to happen in education is that young people are going to have to figure out how to use the tools that we have to be able to learn and learn in new ways. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting AI tools that teach people how to do things. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of there's a really cool little, what the hell is the name of it? It's an AI tool that teaches kids math. And I actually donate to them every year. I forget the name of the organization, but they actually have a tool that's designed to teach kids math, and it's better than any math teacher I've ever had. I went and looked at it and messed with it when I was thinking about donating to their charity, and it's actually amazing. I mean, it's incredible. It's a cool little tool that it's better than any math teacher that you ever heard in your entire life. And I think that if you just had tools like that, being able to teach kids actually really good, useful education tools, it's better than most teachers anyway. They're better than most teachers, and you can use them as kids can use them and learn as they need to. So as you give them an idea of what they're learning about and then have them learn on their own pace and learn about these, I think that education and AI is going to go really hand in hand. I think, the next generation of kids, if they actually use these things and use them well, are going to be the smartest people that have ever existed on the planet without question.
Easily, especially with Grok improving the way it is right now. I was talking with someone just the other day about that, because I think Grok has shattered so many people's perceptions of reality because they were operating within information bubbles, and now they can ask, an AI that actually is spitting out useful information versus like Chat GPT and these like woke bots.
Here's the one thing I'll say about this. So I know I listen to the people that argue about whether or not these bots are smart or which ones are woke or which ones are not. Here's the reality, okay? the bleeding edge of these things is not the premier chatbots that everyone's talking to anymore. Okay, the LLMs are old essentially. Okay, what's really happening right now are the code bots. Okay, the code bots, and the only way a code bot can be useful, a code bot can only be useful if it is good at resolving code. Now, code doesn't resolve by answering questions whether or not it's woke or not. Okay, it just doesn't do it. Okay, and the reality is the best code bots right now, I mean, Claude, everyone talks about Claude. Claude's getting blown out of the water by ChatGPT right now. Okay. I'm hoping that Elon Musk releases a Grok version of this. I will be very happy if that comes out, but he doesn't have one yet. But the reality is, the ChatGPT version that's out right now, these things are unbelievably intelligent. Okay. These things are unbelievably fast, unbelievably powerful. And there is nothing woke about resolving code. Okay, I mean, I've got them doing all kinds of things on my computers. It has nothing to do with what the woke background of these stupid bots are, and it has almost no restrictions on it either. Okay, I mean, the LLMs that are doing the coding and all that stuff, these things are the next generation of AI, and I don't really think people realize what they're doing and what they can do yet. But this is a whole different level compared to it.
I found some restrictions in terms of the coding of it, but that I guess is a separate issue.
I mean,
application specific.
I doubt it. It probably means that you were doing something very, very, very strange, because I have run into zero restrictions, and I promise you, I've got it down to the point that it can identify people's, where their house is. So, that's, I don't even think that's I think you might be talking to it a strange
project.
I don't know what a robotics, I mean, anyway, we don't need to talk about that. Anyway, I got another person up here. What is up, Allah's America?
Hello.
Hi, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show.
How are you tonight? I had a question regarding the Georgia Guidestones. Have you heard of them before?
Yes, I've heard of the Georgia Guidestones, but why are we talking about them? Go ahead.
I heard you about the mathematicians on here. I was reading William Cooper's book, Upon a Pale Horse, and was wondering your thoughts on Iran.
What? All right, listen, but you got to have a much more concise or some sort of interesting question here, because the Georgia Guidestones and Iran and some dude's book means nothing to me. So you got to have to link these things together.
According to the stones, 6
billion. Yeah, listen, I understand the whole concept of what the Georgia Guidestones are and the death cult and all that stuff, but what on
do
earth?
Do you think that we are in a death cult right now with nuclear exchange on the front?
No, not at all.
How?
What do you mean how?
Why not?
What do you mean how? Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Okay, so I'm not worried about that. But more than that, the countries that have nuclear weapons, China, Russia, United States, the mutually assured destruction is still quite true. So they don't intend to destroy each other, because one of them wants to actually rule the world. And unfortunately, it's just not going to end. Okay, so it's been pretty clear, by the way, after the incident in Ukraine essentially proved that you can still have large-scale war conflict again without nuclear weapons being exchanged. That's what Ukraine proved to the world, which is why Ukraine really mattered a lot. And by the way, us flattening Iran, that has nothing to do with nuclear weapons anymore, because one, I never believed they really had nuclear weapons. They've been saying the Iran's had nuclear weapons since I was like 4. It was always next week. I mean, it's always next week they're going to get them. I don't really care. Okay, I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me. I think the Iranian regime was just useless anyway. You should have bombed them a long time ago. But no, in terms of what the Georgia Guidestones say, by the way, I don't know if you know that the Georgia Guidestones got blown to pieces a few years ago. I don't know if you were aware of that.
I found it interesting that they were targeting desalination plants over there.
Well, I mean, the Israelis have desalination plants and actually have some of the largest of them. And if there's anybody that's targeting those specifically, I think that the Iranians and the Israelis, Israel would probably gain a lot by hitting desalination plants, because they're the ones that are actually developing the technology on it. But anyway, I need to move on here, because this is kind of a completely off-topic conversation. So go ahead. Let's see here. Go ahead, Jared.
They're depopulating.
Hey, yeah, I actually had a question for Javon. Hey, Javon, are you still with us? Or
I am. What's up, brother?
Yeah, hey, what's up? You had a question. So Senator John Kennedy came out today, senator from Louisiana, and was basically saying that he thinks the strike on the girls' school was basically the U.S., right? So I've been sharing the same opinion with Jacktron and Walter, saying that I didn't think that the U.S. would be. I just don't think the U.S. would make such a stupid ass mistake. Um, do you think it's possible that Do you think it's possible that the U.S. could have made this mistake, and do you think it's possible this week we might see? Because I think they said, based on the New York Times reporting that Jack Tron was talking about, they're saying the preliminary investigation cites that the U.S. Is involved here. Now, I can't say because I don't know, but do you think it's possible, or do you think it's just chatter for right now?
Yeah, so let me just kind of give you a quick. So in war, pretty much anything's possible, right? So like
Sure.
the idea that like, do I think it's possible? Sure, it's possible for a lot of things. It's also possible that Iran would also target their own schools for a propaganda campaign. I mean, they've proven they're willing to do pretty much anything. But the fact of the matter remains, what people need to understand about our men and women in uniform is we are the most honorable fighting force to ever exist on planet Earth. We restrain ourselves in many instances through things called ROEs. Those are rules of engagement, Jared. And essentially, what typically happens when you have a Democrat in office is they restrict those ROEs. They become very restrictive to the point where U.S. troops can barely defend themselves without a lawyer walking in the room telling them they don't have the right to. And so, what you have under this administration, I think it's pretty clear, is that we don't fight to look good. We fight to win. Period. And so what I think is most likely happen is that these are joint strikes between the Americans, Israelis, the Saudis, and a couple other partners in the area. And when you have a country like Iran, who has proven they are more than willing to sacrifice their own citizens for the sanctity and the survival of the regime, I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be more than what meets the eye, as is the standard when it comes to any scandal related to the Trump administration. Yesterday, TMZ told you that Secretary of War Hegseth purchased millions of dollars in lobster for people at the Pentagon, and it wasn't. It was actually for our troops downrange. And so I say all that to say is that a lot of times these headlines are out to spin a story, and then when the investigation or whatever occurs, typically there's more than meets the eye. So before I get ahead of anything, and before I would caution you, before you get ahead of anything, to say, well, do you think it's possible? Anything's possible. Literally anything is possible in warfare.
Yeah, well,
Mistakes happen all the time.
And that's my comment specifically on this is that the concept that the United States themselves would hit a Tomahawk missile on this is, to me, sounds very unlikely. Okay, very unlikely. If the United States, the Tomahawk's
it's
one of the most
beyond unlikely.
Yeah.
It's beyond unlikely.
Yeah.
We restrain ourselves entirely.
But
it's
not just that. I'm talking about targeting system wise. The Tomahawks are some of the most accurate cruise missiles that have ever been developed ever. I mean, these are the things that we fly through windows. Okay, I mean, this is the idea that we would just hit the kids. Sorry, I'm not sure I buy it. I mean, it's just, of course they want to, any story they can use right now to hit the Trump administration to try and make this war look bad, they're going to use it, which is part of the reason this came out within 24 hours of the beginning of the strikes, and they immediately claimed we killed a whole bunch of kids, and the Iranians had news conferences talking about it and everything else. Sorry, this looks fake to me. I mean, it's just what I look at it.
I thought so too, but then and Javon, I don't really put much into what TMZ says these days, especially with the Guthrie case.
Whatever happened to Guthrie? Where's she at? Is she still alive? Does anyone care at all? Does anyone care at all about Nancy? Is Nancy just dead and no one cares anymore? What about JLR? That poor bastard said he was going to stay out there till he figured it all out. Is he still there? I feel bad for JLR.
I think he's still there. Savannah Guthrie's walking.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
30 Rock in New York City, going to the Today Show. So that case is crazy, guys. But yeah, I don't really put much into what TMZ says. But I do think, New York Times and Washington Post, obviously they're going to try to, play semantics here, but they still have a very high. They're not. I don't think they would just say that the U.S.
Oh yeah, they would.
A preliminary investigation.
Listen to me.
That's a high bar.
Yeah, listen to me. You think much higher of this organization than I do. Okay, I've been watching the New York Times lie about quite literally everything for years. Jared, I know you probably never listened to him, but Rush Limbaugh used to have a fantastic quote when he was talking about the New York Times. Whenever the New York Times would actually do decent reporting, he would call it a spontaneous act of journalism. That's what he would refer to the New York Times with, because their acts of journalism are very rare, but randomly they will actually have a good piece of journalism. And I think the last one that ever came out from the New York Times in terms of real journalism was in November of 2023 when they released the Neville Singham report. That was it. That's the last time they've actually had anything useful out of the New York Times. Since then, it's just more drivel. I mean, again, Jared, you got to remember, you said they wouldn't just lie about it. They literally said the guy who tried to throw a bomb at the crowd in New York City yesterday was a smoking jar of metal and fuses. Okay, so it's just like,
Well, that was
but-
CNN.
no,
that was
no.
CNN.
That was the New York Times, man. It's the New York Times that posted that. It was
Yeah,
not
but-
it was not them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see, Walter. I think
I know.
we
I
might
agree.
get
Listen, I
tomorrow.
agree with you. I agree with you. We'll have to wait until the investigation comes out. By the way, I looked up that quote you were talking about from Kennedy, and he said, "Look, I mean, I'm not." He said he's not going to hide behind the idea that there's an investigation ongoing, and he said because he's not going to hide behind the investigation, he said it's a terrible thing no matter how it happens. So anyway,
So, that's
let's.
not. Well, Walter, that's not true.
yes,
I have the quote in front of me.
Yeah, I have the quote in front of me too, Jared. He literally said it's a terrible mistake regardless. Okay, I'm not going to let you keep going here.
That's
I gotta
fine.
go.
Just let me.
No, I've got somebody else who's trying to talk. 10th Mountain, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the Washington Post and the New York Times are part of a globalist cabal called DVEX. And if you don't know who DVEX is, they also have a hold of like NPR, all these organizations. They're all tied up with the Clinton Global Initiative. All these globalists. I mean, they're a farce. I have exposed this organization, and this is probably one of the next organizations to fall. I'm going to post an article in the Purple Pill. It's called "PSYOP: Secret Think Tanks and Recap of American Intelligence" that exposes DVEX to the hilt. And I'm telling you, these guys
Well,
are.
I mean, listen, the Washington Post is owned by Bezos, and the Washington Post itself is losing so much money that he's firing everybody that works there. So the Washington Post isn't going to be around much longer. And I keep telling everybody, people aren't listening to me. New York Times is literally in business because they have Wordle. That is it. That is, I'm not. You guys need to go look up. There's a great report on this. I can't remember who wrote this. I think it was Tech Magazine or Wired Magazine or something. They're talking about something like 80 to 90% of the users that use the New York Times app on their phone, they only use it to play Wordle. It's not even a joke. It's like almost their entire user base is Wordle players. That's it. And that's because they don't have any real news. People just go to play their stupid little games on there. Okay, let's go ahead and let's keep moving here. Thomas, put your hand up at some point. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, just real quick. If people haven't realized yet that these totalitarian, bloodthirsty regimes aren't willing to bury their military capabilities directly under their own children to protect them, and ultimately to then sacrifice them on the altar of propaganda, you're being foolish. Okay, it would not surprise me one bit at all, as somebody who has studied this radical Islamic regime for years. They literally will hide behind innocent people, their military capability. It breaks my heart. It does. Okay, it breaks my heart that potentially some children died in Iran. But the bottom line is people need to understand the depth of depravity of these people, that they will literally hide behind civilians in order to carry out their military objectives. There is not one, I promise you, there is not one military establishment that would be targetable that is literally co-located with a child daycare center in the United States on purpose to use the death of children as a propaganda weapon. And they are preying on the leftist media, the leftist media's vulnerability to this type of a weapon. And propaganda is a weapon. So not only would they be potentially likely to blow up their own children. I mean, these are the same people that tie IEDs to children and send them at U.S. troops in Afghanistan and Iraq and in Syria. And so and so what that should say, what that should convey to you, is that the people we are fighting are that evil, that they are willing to do that to their own children to preserve the regime, that they will hide behind their own innocence in order to protect the regime. And that is a fact. So it's not it's a level of depravity that I just can't express enough, that there would never be, and I want to associate myself with what Javon said a minute ago. We know where all these targets are. We have been studying these targets for decades. We know when they're building an underground facility. We know when they're hiding their missiles. We know where their enriched uranium is. We know where all this is.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's the thing, Thomas.
Their own children.
Well, and here's the thing, Thomas, and this is why I was pointing this out when I said it's probably not us, and I doubt highly that it's us, that we sent a Tomahawk and we accidentally did this, because our guys, people. Okay, there is a great press conference that was held after the previous Iran strike, okay? I recommend everyone go watch it, okay? Go watch that press conference. It was with Dan Kane, with General Kane, and he explained very, very in detail, the most amazing detail I've ever heard from a press conference, talking about how we struck this thing. But the most important detail that he said in the midst of this, and he just briefly said it with maybe a passing comment. He said, I don't need to go into the details, but at one point, the Iranians started pouring more concrete caps on top of their ventilation shafts on top of Fordow. And what he said afterwards was, we knew the exact dimensions of those caps as they were pouring them. Okay, so just for an idea of our targeting ability and our satellite capability and our targeting systems, do you think we would make that mistake? If we can see the inches of thickness of a concrete cap on top of a camouflaged building on top of a mountain somewhere, you think we might be able to tell if the kids are in school or not that day? Just ask yourself. I mean, really. Now, Javon brought up a good point that, we were also doing targeted strikes with not just our own military, but with multiple militaries at the same time. So it's very possible that it wasn't us and it was one of our allies and they made a mistake. Maybe that's true, but we don't know that. No one knows that. No one has any information on that. And I love that the New York Times, this stupid report that they put out, they said that the military's already to a preliminary investigation. Horseshit. There is no investigation that's already been done on that. It's been a week. Okay, what government investigation has a preliminary within a week? Okay, government doesn't do anything in a week. The guy that's supposed to even look at the form probably hasn't even heard about it yet. Okay, that's the idea that the government can do anything in 1 week. There's nothing in the military that gets done properly, or in the U.S. government when it comes to investigative stuff gets done in a week. Okay, that just doesn't happen. All right, that is impossible. I don't believe it at all. Keymaker's up here losing it because he knows I'm right.
Yeah, I was cracking up as you were saying that. There's definitely no way that, I understand that people think it's important and it's important to the rest of the world, but inside of the government, this is probably still on the bottom of a stack of much more important things that are on top of it. And I think that it's getting a lot of attention, but I really, the way that our military is, and I think it was Javon was just saying it, like, the amount of processes that we go through to never make these sort of mistakes makes me always err to the side of this probably wasn't us, right? It probably didn't have anything to do with us. It was probably a counter munition or another ballistic from Iran that, like originally the story was that it was one of theirs that actually, misfired essentially and fell. So I don't know if that turns out to be the true story, but
I'll tell you
that's
right
what
now.
I'm thinking.
Well, I'll tell you right now, just based on what I was reading, and again, I tell everybody, please just go read Matt Tardio's work on this. Okay, Matt Tardio actually knows what he's talking about. He's actually really good at this stuff. And he's got a whole bunch of stuff talking about it, okay? The number one thing that he brings up is actually the most convincing argument that I saw was actually when he did an analysis of the actual, he's got a still of the missile, Okay, he's got a still of the missile from a video that apparently has been going around somewhere showing the missile hitting, and he's showing that essentially it's not the same length and shape of a Tomahawk missile. Okay, the fins are in the wrong spot, the missile itself, and he also someone was in here yesterday talking about explosives, saying that the explosives themselves, that the explosion itself, it wasn't the same color that our explosions use because the oxidizers were too low. So listen, there will be an investigation on this. And I'll tell you right now, if this was one of our targets and we were going to hit it, there's a freaking satellite image video of this happening. Okay, so it's not like we accidentally, like, we know exactly what this was. Okay, so if this was us, we know about it, and there's some video talking about it, and they're doing an analysis on it to see if it was one of our people or not. Okay, but you're not going to hear about that till long after this conflict's over. Okay, there's no way it's going to come out in the midst of this. Oh yeah, last week while we're still killing their Khomeinis and they're in the middle of taking out more Ayatollahs. Which, by the way, guys, today, I don't know if you guys have been enjoying this as much as I have, but the cardboard Ayatollah memes war is the funniest thing that has ever happened. Okay, now I mentioned the other day the fact that they came out and they said that they had a new Ayatollah and they brought out their cardboard cutout of an Ayatollah. I did not realize how funny it actually looked until I saw the video of them breaking. I mean, it's like something out of South Park. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Hey, Walt, that alone should tell the American people and the world how effective the U.S. military is, that they couldn't bring this guy into that space to accept the supreme leadership of Iran, that they had to bring in a picture of the guy because they knew that if they brought that guy straight into that room, we would have struck him. So,
yeah, but it's not just a picture, though. The cardboard cutout is much funnier, dude. The cardboard cutout is hysterical, but the cardboard cutout, like, I love it, though, because the other day, guys, I was telling everybody that we were running out of Ayatollah. Like, that's a real problem. We're running low on Ayatollah. But now that we know that they can be cardboard cutouts, they come in flat packs. So, I mean, they might have Ayatollah to last at least 15, 20 years at this point. So I just wanted people to be aware that we actually may not be running out of Ayatollah. I didn't realize that they could print them out. I mean, that's, if they can actually just use cardboard cutouts and that counts, then we're screwed. I mean, we'll be killing Ayatollahs for the next 30 years. I mean, I don't know how many cardboard boxes they've got over there. But I mean, does Amazon deliver to Tehran? I mean, then maybe they can keep delivering them that way. I mean, I saw someone earlier said that they don't know what to do because 5 Ayatollahs were delivered to their door with a stack of Amazon packages. So, I don't know. But I just thought that was the meme wars on this has just been unbelievable. But I do enjoy that they keep claiming that, they're going to do everything, that everything's happening, that oil is going to soon hit $200 a barrel. I will say, watching the multi-trillion-dollar oil market behave like a fresh new pair off Solana has been absolutely hysterical. I mean, I have been loving this. I mean, it's just watching this, like watching traders that have no idea what to do. There's a great video, if you guys have ever seen it before. There's a guy that is like, the unpredictability where he goes to put on his backpack and then he throws it around. He goes to tie his shoe, but he pulls his phone out. I mean, it's a great video, and that's the market right now. These people have no idea what to do about it. It's very entertaining to watch. But in terms of whether or not the Iranians have the ability to raise the price of oil to $200 a barrel, I don't think so. Okay, I mean, you've got no navy. What are you going to use? I mean, how are you going to do it? I mean, I guess I just don't get what are you going to? How are you going to deliver the mines to the middle of the Strait of Hormuz in rubber dinghies? I mean, who's going to bring them out there? I don't understand how that's going to happen at all. So, anyhow, guys, yes, Jacktron, go ahead.
Just one other thing about the Iranian missile thing. Now Tucker Carlson is also saying that.
Listen to me. I've had it with Tucker Carlson. Okay, I'm absolutely done with that guy. The other day he had some random dude on there and he was sitting there talking to him about unconditional surrender, and they talked about it for 20 minutes about unconditional surrender. By the way, the only reason they were talking about unconditional surrender is because the president of the United States specifically said the words unconditional surrender. He said it specifically. So that's the reason they were bringing it up. But then Tucker just started to go on and on about how unconditional surrender means that you can rape your wives and daughters. I've had it with that fucking guy. I've had it with Tucker. I can't, I generally haven't paid any attention to that jackass in about a year because he's very obnoxious and he's very disingenuous most of the time when he talks. But after that, I've had it with this guy. I can't, no, I've got to end for the tonight, guys. Yeah, I've got to end for the tonight, guys. Sorry. But I'm sorry. I really can't do it. All right, Tucker and everything that he's done over the past couple months, but this video where he's sitting there talking about unconditional surrender and then immediately starts talking about American troops being able to rape or do anything, like, I'm sorry, dude, I can't do it. Shut the fuck up, Tucker. You disingenuous faggot. I can't do it in with him anymore. All right, sorry. And on that happy note, we're going to have to end this evening, guys. So I will see you guys tomorrow night on Thursday night for more of the political theater. I appreciate everyone who comes to this show. Thanks for coming here late this evening. Sorry we had some issues yesterday and tonight getting in here. We will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m., not 10 p.m. For more of the political theater, guys. We will see you guys next time. Appreciate everyone who comes to the show. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Some folks are born with a liberty spark, their hearts beat red, white, and blue. When the anchors sneer and the cameras bark, they turn the lens right back at you. Truth bound, ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not the party line sons, no, we ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Some folks inherit silk-lined halls, spend our sweat while preaching share. But when the tax man wraps his knuckles raw, their mansions suddenly look bare, impaired. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're not their banker-raised heirs, no. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're the vigilant ones, so. Yeah, some paint stars on press room lies and send the common men to toil. Ask them, how much truth will you trade tonight? They mutter, more noise, more noise, more noise. Ain't for sale, ain't for sale. Not the theater's pawns, friend. It ain't for sale, ain't for sale. We're America's steadfast ones. No, we won't be spun.